So, it's such a privilege to be here. I've heard about this this lunchtime hour that you all share together, so it's really a privilege to be here. So thank you, Corey, for including me, and I really look forward to this. I can promise you I will probably be the shortest speaker you ever have, so I'll just preface it with that. But one of the topics I wanted to talk about was the book that changed my life, and for me, it's my Grateful book. That I have, and I've had this now for over 10 years. And I certainly am aware that I have not created the wheel. Some of you probably have heard of this or have your own, or obviously have heard of the concept. But I did want to share with you how it's changed my life, even as simple as it is, and sort of provide a context for that. I grew up in a really tough area in the Bronx, in New York, and I went to a really strict Catholic school growing up. And my mom certainly raised us with faith in our lives, and we went to church every Sunday and so on and so forth. But the real reason I went to this really strict Catholic school was because it was just the safest place to go to school in the area I grew up. So I certainly grew up as Catholic because of that, and it carried me through my life. And then when I was in college, I started to really question organized religion and church, probably like many of you may have done since you've been here at Colgate. And what really shook me to my core was the sexual abuse case of the Catholic Church. And that is something that just completely threw me in terms of what had happened, how they handled it, or lack thereof handled it, and so on and so forth. And so that really made an impact of me. And so when I was 21 years old at Syracuse, my way to sort of fight the man at that was I stopped going to organized church. And I was really clear with myself that I wasn't going to leave my faith or leave God, but I was going to leave the Catholic Church, because I thought at 21 years old that by me not going to Catholic Church, it was going to solve everything, and it was going to, stand up for those survivors and those victims, kind of like fight the man, take on the world kind of thing. So with that being said, one person stopped going to Catholic Church, and I still have not gone to an organized Catholic Mass since that. And a friend of mine at that time in college has the strongest faith I have ever met to this day. And she has never gone to church. And she still, again, to this day, has the strongest faith that I've ever met. And I think she was concerned for me at that time, and I really appreciated it, because she was proactively thinking that if I sort of had this thought about this organized religion in my life, that I was actually going to lose faith and then, altogether stop being a faithful person and things of that nature. So she had said to me at that time, whatever church you leave, don't leave your gratitude behind. And so she gave me this book, this notebook. I have one a year, so now I have 10. This is my 11th. Where she said every night, write about things that you are grateful for. And I am not a writer. I have never had a journal. I've never had a diary. I so respect people who do that. I think it's a great habit, one that has never been mine. And so I did it. I took it and I started to write 5 or 10 or 15, whatever I felt that night, for things that I was grateful for. And it could be as simple or as big as I felt that day. And it really changed my life. And it started to change my life as the more years went by. And the reason for that is because I've never had such a holistic view of my life than looking back on books that I wrote what I was grateful for or what I had prayed for at that time. And, if you think about it, you look back 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it may be, and the things that you prayed for or wanted in your life, you can see how many of those you actually received. And you can be grateful for that. In the same sense, you also can receive what you may have wanted so bad and it didn't happen, and you're thinking, thank God that didn't happen. So it was the first time I really was able to look at sort of where I was and where I have been, and how my life changed simply by looking at things I was grateful for in my life. It also showed me that one is always having a worse day than you. Every night, no matter how bad my day was or how hard it was or what I had to sort of go through that day, there is still so much to be thankful for that I had. As simple as it was, it does make you evaluate yourself and look at what's in your life. And the last thing I'll say about this as I sort of close here, because it's been 4 minutes now, is one of the things I really have felt with this is I've tried to pay it forward. I got this, again, like I said, 10 years ago, and it truly has changed my life and how I think about things. And my friend, my buddy, gave it to me at that time because, again, I think she thought I needed something to sort of focus on and center on and to ground me. And there are so many times I think that there are people who are going through things and you don't know what to say to them, or words won't do it justice, or words won't suffice. But I've always tried to pay it forward by giving them this book. So I have a copy for all of you here. No, I'm just kidding. But I've always tried to pay it forward by giving this book and offering it to them by saying, you know, this really got me through a sort of confusion part of my life, and I've carried it on ever since. So I've always offered it to them and try to pay it forward to them by saying, keep in mind what you're thankful for every day, and maybe that will change your life as it has indeed changed mine. So, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, happy to take any questions maybe that others may have for another 4 minutes so we can get to 10 here.
This may be too personal.
Sure.
Would you be willing to read some pages from your thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would. I can actually tell you what is in some of them, right? Every day, the one that never ever changes, and it hasn't changed since 10 years, has been my mom. Right, the person who started faith in my life, and by far she is my rock. And for 10 years straight, she's going strong here by being number one. You know, and my dad's a great guy too, but he's always number two, or he's kind of lower on the list, or what have you. I have never told him that, nor will he see this now that I think about it. But my mom is batting 1,000 right now. You know, and on some days it's as simple as you know, perspective is a really big thing, and it's as simple as waking up and knowing that I can go for a run in the morning, because there are so many others that can't have that. I think of Audra all the time, and I think of people all the time who don't have the abilities to do the simple things and simple pleasures that I have in my life. So sometimes it's as simple as going for a run and being healthy, and so many people who are in the hospital and they don't have childhoods like we all maybe had, things of that nature. It's also could be really specific, you know, in terms of when I have a really big day coming up the next day, I'm pretty specific in what I'm thankful for and what I hope to have accomplished that day. That's where I really have learned over my life of the things that I thought I wanted to go a certain way and they didn't. And now I look back and I'm like, God, thank God they did not go that way that I wanted so bad at that time. Yeah.
Did you find it difficult to sort of get started?
Totally. Yeah. So it's a great question. Yeah, totally. I'm not a writer in any sense. Like I said, I've never been a diary person, a journal person. So I kind of have this like small black notebook and I'm like, I don't know what to do with it, right? And then, you know, you get to that point where I'm like, I don't want to fail. So do I start it? Because in 5 days later, if I don't finish it, you know, I'm going to, you know, feel guilty. So it was really hard to start. And at first it was like January 1, Mom. Right? You know, and again, she's batting 1,000 with me now, you know? So then it was like January 2, Mom. Right? You know? But it definitely, I've certainly evolved in it, right? I look back again on my first one. But it was hard to get started. But I will say, I also took it as, I got to the point where I never leave home without it now. I travel a lot for work, and I always take it with me because I almost don't want to go a night now without doing it. And so at first it was hard because I'm thinking, okay, think about the things you're grateful for, but then I got guilty because I'm like, well, it's not only 5 things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my house, and I'm alive, and all these things, right? So I felt like when I was only putting 3 or 4 down, I was selling things short for what I really was grateful for. But then I was like, well, it's not a paper. I'm not handing it in, right? So it was hard to get started, and I've certainly evolved over time where I feel a little bit empty when I don't get to it at night. If I don't get to it, if I don't have it with me or things of that nature. It's gotten to the point where when I've forgotten it on some of my trips, I will email myself what I'm grateful for, because again, it just helps me sleep, and it just gets me in the mindset that I've sort of been accustomed to now for so many years. But yeah, it was really hard, you know.
Quick question. So when you write in it, do you keep it to people, or do you include things or events in it? Like, what kinds of things do you write in there?
Yeah, it really runs the gamut, you know. And at first I started thinking that same thing. I sort of felt guilty by saying I was grateful for some tangible things, right? I mean, I just saw the 80 item thing here, right? And I'm like counting how many things I have in my life. So at first it started to just be people in my life. Mom, right? Number one. But then, you know, it got to the point where I was writing things that I was really happy that either happened or I was grateful that were going to happen. When something went really well that day at work or personally or what have it, I wrote that down, you know, and it was, you know, some nights when it's really cold, I'm thankful that my windows are insulated, especially in the area that we live in. I drive every night and I see windows that aren't, and mine are, and I'm really thankful for that. So it also opened my eyes to sort of the world I'm in too, and noticing things that I'm really thankful for that before when I didn't write it down, I might not have been as aware of it. So it has made me more aware, and it is people, places that I've been able to go to, and things I've been able to experience. A lot of experiences are in there, and it also made me more aware of bad experiences that I have, but they've given me opportunities thereafter. So I would say it's all those things. I still pray very much, very, very much, all the time. That has never gone away from my life. What was really shaken in my life was organized religion. It was really shaken. So when I say that I stopped going to organized mass, I did. I absolutely stopped going, but I still went to church. I went not to a service. I went on my own. I lit my candles and I prayed and I say a rosary every day. That's really important to me. So that was never out of my life. When my buddy gave this to me, I think she was nervous I might have been going down that path. So I think that was her saying, no matter what you do over here, keep gratitude in your life. But for me, what shook me and sort of pulled me back from religious life, maybe to some degree, was organized Catholic Mass, kind of that one specific box, if you will. Corey.
Have family ever I know your mom knows, but
Yeah. Well, now she knows, yeah.
Others that know you have this, have they ever come up to you and said, hey, am I in your...
Yeah, yeah. It's a really good question.
Because I'm going to ask.
Yeah, totally. You know, no, and I'll say that because not many people know I do this. We'll talk about comfort zone. This is way out of my comfort zone here. I would say the only people who really know that I have this are people that I gave it to. And now Corey's like, well, why haven't you given me one? You know, people I've given it to, I've shared that story with. I've done this. You know, it really helped me. Maybe it will help you, and maybe it won't, but maybe it will help you. So I'd probably say there's about maybe 10 people in my life that really actually know that I have something like this. Yeah. Now 11 and 50.
You said when you started out, you were still not, a big writer or anything, but it was difficult, and then it got easier. Has that kind of shifted your ideas? Like, has that turned into you journaling, and has it expanded beyond just that, or has it
Yeah.
maintained?
It's a really good question. I've definitely evolved in it, but it's still bullet points, and it's still probably pretty specific. I am cognizant of adding a little bit more detail, because now I know that I sort of have a habit of going back and looking over the years at what I've written. I wouldn't say it's evolved into me being this writer by any means, or writing my thoughts and feelings and things of that nature down. This is perfect for kind of my line of thinking in terms of bullet points, to the point, black and white. So it's evolved in terms of, I think, me being self-aware and aware of my life, but I wouldn't say that it's evolved me into being a writer or a journaler or things of that nature. Although I think those are great habits. Everyone talks so much about how they help you, so I would encourage you to do it. I just don't.
Since you don't go to organized mass, or you still go to church, how do you find a spiritual community if you don't like going to organized services?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So to be more specific about it, and again, I don't really know if this is fighting it or not, is I really was fighting organized Catholic Mass, right? And from that point, when I was fighting organized Catholic Mass, I bounced around to a lot of different churches based on the pastor that was there. I tried the Methodist church in town. I went to that several years when none of you were here when President Chop was here, but her husband was the minister there, and I went to him for several years, and I have been a member of that church, and I tried some others. I absolutely love going to Corey's services at University Church on Sundays. I love them. So I certainly, I do go to organized Mass or service, if you will, because I love that community. I love being around people who have faith and who share that faith. And when I was only going to church on my own, I certainly felt something was missing, right? I went because I felt something was missing, but I did lose a sense of the community. That's why I did jump around a little bit. And I have certainly nothing against Catholicism or Catholic Mass, but at that point in my life, that's where I really started to struggle with when that case had sort of happened and broke, if you will. That's what really pulled me away from organized Mass. But I still go and get things from that I will never get on my own. Corey's messages, pastor's messages, and again, that sense of community really, really means a lot to me, and I get a lot out of it. Yeah. Those who sing at that church are awesome. I thought I saw someone. Yeah.
Are there things that are hard to be grateful for?
You know, there are days where I'm like, man, I got to write this book because I'm going 11 years strong. But, you know, so there's Mom, right? Mom's always the constant. It's like my out, if you will. You know, when I say that I've evolved with this, no longer do I feel like it is. Because there's always something I can point to, as simple as it is. Being able to sit in my home and write in that book is something that so many don't have. Being able to sit down and think about what I'm grateful for is a thought that so many people don't have. Having faith is something that so many people don't have. So I will say no, it's not. It has made me very aware of so many things that I have in my life, simple or not, tangible or not, that others don't have the opportunity to have. There's my singer.
So, do you think, because I think you've sort of alluded a couple of times that you feel like this is a particularly good fit for your personality.
Yeah.
So could you say more about that? And also, does
Yeah.
that then lead you to think that this is a kind of a thing to do that's really best for certain kinds of people? Or do you think it's kind of a more universally useful practice?
It's a really good question, Rebecca. You know, I think this is a really good fit for my personality because, as I said a couple times, I'm not one who can sit down and write about my feelings or my thoughts. It comes really hard for me to do that. So this was a way where the way my mind works is a very bullet point kind of mind. Lists. I'm very succinct. I don't have long emails. I will never write you a long email. You know, I won't read long emails. So, you know, if you have sent me a long email, I'm sorry if I deleted it. But, you know, I'm thankful for short emails that people write me. You know, so it does fit my way of thinking, and to some degree, that's why I was nervous to start, because I was thinking I don't know what to do, and then I realized, well, there's no judgment here, right? I'm the only one that's going to see this, so I can make it as short and as brief as I want it to be, and also it is very much a time where, again, it can be as long or as short as I want it to be, and I find a fit in that. The second part of your question, though, I think the format of it is fitting to someone's personality, short or not, journaling or diary, whatever it may be, lists or not. But I do think the overall concept of gratitude extends to anybody, extends beyond religion, beyond how strong your faith is or isn't, or if you're looking into your faith, things of that nature. I think that extends beyond personalities. I think just the way of showing it or remembering it is probably more personal.
Just since we have a couple minutes,
Yeah.
I'll put some of you on the spot. If anyone would be interested in sharing how they practice gratitude, I know some of you in the room, some of the practices that you have. Amory, thank you so much for.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
For me, it's an app called Day One, which is a journal. And one of the reasons I like it is because I can have my headphones in and speak it, because I don't like to write out. So that's what we do as a family. We decided years ago after eating, I heard a talk from a really world-renowned theologian and philosopher, Oprah, on one of her shows. She talked about the importance of being grateful. The whole thing was about what you just talked about. You did much better than Oprah. But how important it is in life. So I'm just curious if anyone would be willing to share how they express gratitude, whether in journaling or other things that others might like to hear. And then if you do say something, you can say, hey, I was a Heretics Club speaker one day, and that can go on your resume.
Yeah. I'm thankful for getting through this talk and no one leaving. No one leaving.
We have a room full of ungrateful people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll throw myself out there. I'll say that like I don't do anything as structured as you do. I don't know if I would be capable of it, but I absolutely admire it because I think it probably like would change the way you see every little thing in your life. Personally, I just try and spend time. Like time is how I try and show gratitude. And I tend to show gratitude mostly towards people. I have a hard time. That's one of my faults, I guess, is being grateful for things in my life. But when it comes to people, it's just time.
Yeah. It's a great way to show it.
I have a friend from camp who told me a story about one of her friends who every day when she wakes up she writes, "We have water" on her wrists, just to remind her like people in other countries or like, even in our own country might not have access to fresh or clean or safe drinking water. So it's just like a daily reminder to like write it down and then you see it every day. Just like the simple things.
Yeah, totally. Has anyone read the book A House in the Sky? It's this great, great book about Amanda Lindabout, who was a young woman who was captured over in Syria. And one of the simple things that I write for, she's now free and has this amazing story that she tells about it. And one of the things I write quite a bit is where we live and the opportunity to be free like that. Yeah, so simple as that, like to your point. It's a good book, right? Yeah.
There's actually a thing that Ignatius of Loyola commends to be done at least once a day, if not multiple times a day, called the Examen Prayer. And the first step of it is exactly what you're doing, and then so it's to give thanks either for, different people do it different ways. Sometimes people they pick two things that you want to think about a lot, or write everything down that you think of that you're grateful for a certain amount of time. And then it moves into other things, kind of looking through your whole day, which, it sounds like you kind of do that anyway, but, it's like first it's gratitude, then it's kind of going through your day. When did you avail yourself of opportunities to do good? When did you not? What are you going to do tomorrow? So it's like a kind of review of the whole day. But it sounds very similar, but it seems like your thing is organized specifically just around the gratitude, which it seems,
Yeah.
very similar kind of vibe.
I guess this is more of a question. So, for people who have, I have such a hard time with habits. I'm not a creature of habits.
Totally.
Do you have, for those kinds of people, do you have any ideas of, a similar kind of structure that could work that doesn't require, because if I have to sit down every night and do something like this, I'm absolutely going to slack off at some point.
Totally. But you know what? I think you're totally selling yourself short, because the time that you give to people is totally your way of doing it. You know what I mean? Is totally your way of me doing it. One way is no better or worse. So, I think if sitting down every day and doing this is likely not going to work for your mind and how that does, instead what you do is just as good with giving your time to your people.
We thank Anne-Marie.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Corey. You know.
We thank Anne-Marie.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Corey. You're doing great.